Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Ajnanatirmirandasya
Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadāpi Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuddha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakāmbitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Namo Vishnu Padaya
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale
Srimate
Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paśyatya Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta
Hare Krishna Krishna
Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So, we have been studying this very nice section of chapter 2. In the chapter 2 is entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. So here Krishna in this chapter is going to be giving all of the information he's going to give throughout the remainder of the Bhagavad Gita in summary form in this second chapter. So this chapter opened with Arjuna expressing his despair, his anxiety, his fear, his stress. It's things we ourselves often feel in our day-to-day lives. And Arjuna knew he could not solve his own situation. He could not find help through his own means, through his intelligence, through his strength, through his political powers. He has so many facilities, yet he was not finding relief. So he did something that is extraordinarily instructive to all of us. What did he do? Put into Google how to become stress-free. What did he do? In the very beginning of this chapter, he went to Krishna. And he said, "My dear Krishna, you now tell me what is best for me." Arjuna had faith in one thing in Krishna, well, two aspects of Krishna. One, Krishna only had his interest at heart. Whatever Krishna was going to tell Arjuna was going to be for the best for Arjuna. Just like when a child asks mother for something, Whether they like the answer or not, they know mother's interest is in my success. That they have no doubt. And the second thing Arjuna understood is that Krishna had absolute knowledge. Absolute knowledge means he knows everything relative to all circumstances. Right? We have relative knowledge. Is it cold out today? Well, relative to Antarctica, no, it's quite warm. Relative to Hawaii, it's quite cold. But Krishna has a perspective that is absolute. He knows everything. Not only current, he knows past and also future. So equipped with these two things, Krishna knows everything and he has unending love. It means the instructions Krishna is going to give are perfect. They are the only means to find what we are searching for. And that is peace, happiness, and wellness for everyone. Not even just ourselves, but for everyone. So Arjuna has been listening very attentively to Krishna speak. And the first topic he spoke about was, we are not this body. We are spirit soul. And that, as we mentioned, that is the foundation of everything. The foundational understanding is, I am spirit soul. And then Krishna began to speak many topics. And Krishna came to a verse in which he began to describe someone who has achieved divine consciousness. When we say divine consciousness means they have absolute happiness and bliss. They have perfection of life. Any of us want perfection of life? How many of us want the perfect life? We all do. We want it not only for us, we want it for our spouses, for our children, for our mothers and fathers, if we're very magnanimous, for everyone. So Arjuna heard this sthita prajna, this person fixed in divine consciousness. And so then he asked very detailed questions. Who is this person? Tell me in detail. So Arjuna asked these 4 questions. And we learn something very important by Arjuna's actions. All of Arjuna's behaviors are very instructive to us. And Krishna's instructions, remember, are not for Arjuna's benefit. Whose benefit are they for? All of us. Arjuna was put into a mode of temporary despair to simulate our position. We are on a battlefield of life, day in and day out. Sometimes we face very difficult dilemmas. What to do? Conflicts. So, as Krishna is solving that for Arjuna, he is really solving it for all of us. So, Arjuna does something very important, and he asks questions. Spiritual life is about asking questions. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Srila Vyasadeva says in the very first Vedanta Sutra, he says, Atato Brahma Jignasa. One must inquire. We have intelligence to inquire. But if we simply use our intelligence to inquire where I shall eat tomorrow, are we really using that intelligence? So Arjuna is showing us we should use our intelligence. If Krishna says something, we should ask questions. Why? How? What does it mean? So he asks 4 detailed questions. He says, of this person who has found perfect consciousness, he wants to know, what are the characteristics? How can I identify this person? And he said, this is not a matter of what one dresses, how one looks, how many verses of Bhagavad Gita they have memorized. That is not the characteristic that will define whether one achieves perfection of life, or how many years they live in the temple. I'm stuck on that comment. Right? That's not what Krishna said. So what is the characteristic Krishna said? What is the primary characteristic of one who has found perfection of life? He's happy. And? No material desires. Wait a minute. No money, no fame, no strength, no 1,000 followers on Facebook. How is that happiness? Those are all my sources of happiness. Is it not? So Krishna is saying that we have to become free of our material desires. That is the path to happiness. But we don't like that answer so much. We're not ready for that answer yet. So, but Arjuna continues to inquire. He says, okay, if one has no material desires, he says, how does he speak? Prabhupada said, a fool is revealed when they speak. You may be dressed nicely with spectacles and nice suit, but as soon as you speak, you reveal yourself. So Arjuna asked very intelligently, how does this person, how are they affected? When good things happen to them, or when bad things happen to them? Or when neutral? And we said it'd be very, very powerful. Somebody said impossible. To have a very steady mind in the midst of good and bad. And we said the key to understanding that is, remember, the good and bad all relates to my body. But to the soul, it is all good. There's no duality. So if we look through those glasses and see the world from that one perspective, I am spirit soul. Then all of a sudden the good and bads disappear. It was like pulling that boat out of the ocean from last week. I showed that guy. So that was the second question. How is this person affected? And Krishna said they are unaffected. And now the third question we'll discuss today. What is the mentality of one when their senses are controlled? Meaning, are they frustrated? Are they happy? Are they agitated? What is their mood? How many of us are going to control our senses if some bad outcome will happen? Nobody. We'll only do it if something good will come from it. We only choose activities to do based on whether something good will happen for it. I'll go to the office, even if I don't like it, because I think something good will come with it. A paycheck. And from that I can enjoy different things. If no paycheck is coming, anybody's going to go to the work? No. So everything we do, it is done for some desired outcome. And we evaluate which activities based on which is going to give me more or less happiness. Very simple. Where I'll eat tomorrow is based on where will give me more happiness. That's it. So we'll discuss this one today. And then finally, Arjuna asks, what does he do? If his senses are controlled, they're restrained, he has no emotion to good or bad, he is perfectly undisturbed in sense control, what does he do? Does he just sit in a cave? What is the activity of one who has achieved this consciousness? So you can see Arjuna's questions are very complete. From how do we identify this person, to what is the mindset, to what happens in their state, to what they do. So the key theme of this section we've been talking all about is, what is the key theme? Controlling the senses. And we said controlling the senses does not mean stopping the senses. It means to engage them, and we're going to get to the crux of that today. Last week we talked about controlling the mind. Anybody remember this example we talked about? Impressions. What is this? It's like a soft clay ball. When something touches that ball, a mark is made. How difficult is it to make a mark on that ball?
Very easy.
Very easy. If a piece of paper inadvertently touches it, some mark will happen. The mark is made easily. But now how much effort it takes to remove that mark, to make it smooth again? You push it and it's gone. You have to rework the whole thing. This is like our mind. Our mind acquires so many impressions by what we see, by what we hear, by what we smell, by what we taste, and by what we touch. These 5 senses, they bring impressions into our mind. And once those impressions are made, they're very difficult to get out. Anybody has crazy ideas in their mind? They all do. Getting them out's not so easy. So, controlling the senses, meaning being thoughtful about what we see, thoughtful about what we hear, what we taste, what we smell, helps protect the mind from these. And we do it with our children. We don't let them see certain things. We don't let them hear certain things. Why? Because we don't want to affect their mind. But when it comes to ourselves, we're not so protective. We let our eyes wander everywhere. We let our ears wander everywhere. Right? And so, with this understanding that we might be a little bit more protective. And the flip side is also true though. When I see the forms of the Lord and I hear the beautiful pastimes of Krishna and I taste the wonderful foodstuffs offered to Him and I smell the flowers, those also make impressions. And those impressions also create great desires in the mind. So the mind works both ways. So now, let us read this verse. This is one of my favorite verses in all of Bhagavad Gita. It is one of the most, to me, inspiring verses to bring us to practice Krishna consciousness. Because practicing spiritual life is not so easy in the beginning. We need some motive, some understanding. So this verse, if we understand it, will give us great faith. And we'll discuss it in some detail. Somebody wants to read the verse? Purport?
The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense object remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Purport. Unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like aṣṭāṅga-yoga in the matter of yama, niyama, asana, praṇāyāma, pratyāhāra, dhāraṇā, dhyāna, etc. is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good if one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for food.
So, Krishna is saying here, how does one control their attachments to so many things? How does he restrict himself by doing? It's more of an addition, losing the sense enjoyment. By doing what? Experiencing a higher taste. Okay. So we pick the things that give us higher taste. And when we have something with a higher taste, we easily let go of things with lesser taste. Now let's give the example. If you have a $20 bill in your hand and I say, give it to me, you'll say, no. But if I give in exchange a $100 bill, then what will you say? Yes. Will you hesitate? And if you like, make the trade once and then you have another $20 bill and I offer you 100, will you trade again? How many times you'll do? As many times. Because you're trading something of lower value for something of higher value. And actually we go through life doing this. We give up one thing trying to find something else. So Krishna is saying that when we try to restrict the senses, is that pleasurable? Do we enjoy that? No. This is us. We don't like restrictions. Nobody does. It's not fun. So Krishna is saying, controlling the senses does not mean stopping the senses. He's saying, no, you elevate the senses. Right? So this is our reaction to every kind of restriction, from little age to where we are now. Nobody enjoys it. So will stopping the senses work? Will ceasing sense enjoyment work? I'm just going to close my eyes, plug my ears. Is that going to work? Why won't it work? Prabhupada speaks in the Purport 2 reasons why they won't work. What are the 2 reasons why trying to stop the material sense desires won't work?
Because the taste is still there.
Because, 1, the taste is there. One question. Why is it that virtually all diets fail? Because the taste for gulab jamuns don't go away. At least for me. The taste, we can artificially abstain from those items for some period of time. But the problem is, the taste doesn't disappear. So what happens? Eventually, we go back. So Krishna is saying, if you stop your material sense enjoyment just by stopping, you're not going to achieve anything. Because eventually you're going to go back to them because the taste hasn't been eradicated. As Prabhupada says, the diseased person is restricted, but the problem is the taste remains. And what's the second reason? We kind of already discussed it on a prior page.
We cry.
Huh?
We cry.
We cry. We don't like it. No. It's not enjoyable. It's very kind of obvious and practical. But when we speak about spirituality, we sometimes come with these misconceptions that to practice spirituality, I have to give up all the good things and I have to follow some arduous process that is very dry and very unfulfilling. And that's what leads many to reject the process of spiritual life. And that's not such a bad reason to reject it. Who's going to trade something that's very dry when you have something that's at least tasting sweet now? No one will. You'll not give me that $20 bill if I'm offering you a $5 bill. You'll say sorry, no matter how many times I ask. So, this taste will keep one. So Krishna is telling us, we must move to higher tastes. And we'll talk about how that helps us cease our enjoyment. And because of this dislike, ultimately we're only going to do what we like, what we get pleasure out of. And actually there's an intrinsic reason why. Because the soul is made up of 3 qualities: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Ananda means happiness. The reason we are all looking for happiness. Anybody woke up today thinking, I want to be unhappy? Never. No one. Not even the birds and the bees and the dogs and the ants and the cats. everyone. Because the soul is made up of happiness. And so the intrinsic or the instinctual quality of the soul is to find happiness. So this search for happiness is natural and should be encouraged. It's the good thing. The problem is we're trying to find it in the wrong places. It is like we have gone to the library and we are searching for knowledge in the garbage can. We're in the right place, but we're not looking how to find it properly. So, Krishna gives us an extraordinarily great opportunity that we should be very grateful for. And it is this. So when what is this? No, it's a Y in the road, right? So what happens when we approach this?
We don't know which direction to go.
We don't know which direction, right? But let's say we say we want to go left. Then what happens?
We don't know.
It may be the wrong way.
It may be the wrong way. And once I'm committed to going left, I can't go right. I have to pick one or the other. Is that right? And we've had many decisions like this we had to make. Either this career or that career. Either this spouse or that spouse. Either this iPhone or that Samsung. Some small, some big. We had decisions to make. Now imagine if Krishna said, either you pursue your material desires or you pursue your spiritual desires. You have one choice, either left or right. You decide. What would be our situation? We'd be doomed. We'd be doomed. Because as of now, we only know one thing. But Krishna doesn't force us to make that either or decision. He gives us the greatest of all bargains. What is a rent-to-own strategy? Krishna says, you just try it. Try what? Try bhakti. If you like it, do more. If you don't, no problem. He doesn't say, hey, if you want to practice spiritual life, you must first control all your senses. You must first go through some process of purification. You must go through this, that, then you can start. He doesn't say, you must commit to my road and then you can come. No. When you go to look for a house to buy, think about the commitment you have to make. You go to buy a house, you can see it for 1 hour, 2 hours maximum, and you have to decide then and there, maybe once, twice you can go, whether you want to buy that house that you'll spend the next 30 years working to pay it off. Now, if some seller said, you know what, I like you. You can stay in this house for 1 month. And you can decide, do you like the neighbors or not? Is your cell phone reception proper everywhere? Is the water working the way you expected? Are there no bugs in the house that you don't like? You know, is the structure as solid as it looks? All these things, and then you decide. Anybody allows you to do that? Nobody. Nobody. You go for a job interview. You have a job. If you want to work for that other company, what do you have to do? You say, let me try it out for 2 weeks and then I'll let you know. And you tell your current boss, I'm checking out another job. I'll let you know. If not, I'll be back. That works? One or the other. You have to decide. And over again, we get. But Krishna is so merciful, so compassionate, so loving. He says, okay, you have all your desires, no problem. You have some past activities, no problem. Just start practicing a little bit of devotional life. And he not only says no problem, he's in essence saying, I will take care of everything. How he's taking care of everything? The higher taste. When we see this higher taste, Krishna is the source of that taste. Don't forget that. When we practice devotional life, there is a sweetness, an experience, and it's very tangible. It's not theoretical. And by experiencing that, what happens? When this fish goes from this small pond to the big, is it lamenting about losing its small pond anymore? When we traded our bicycle, which was a great means of moving around, and finally we got some vehicle. Even if it was a beat up old car, it was a car. Did we miss our bicycle anymore? Did we have to work to renounce the taste of that bicycle? It happens automatically. Why? Because we got something better. I have my iPhone 7. If I go to the store and buy this new one that's out, will I have any taste for my old one anymore? No. When the first iPhone came out, how much taste there was for it? No more. But the problem with the iPhones is this. When you get the iPhone 10, whatever, S today, you're done? You'll never want another one again?
Next year, September.
Next year, the next one. And the next one. And the next one. And when will it end? Never. It never ends. You're never satisfied. The material desires, as we get more, we don't reach the end of our desires. We want more. The millionaire is not satisfied. He wants more. And we think, wow, if I just had $1 million, I'd be all set. Nothing else. But our whole life we've been saying, one more this, one more zero in my bank account, one more car, one more title, one more that, one more. But each time we get it, are we set? But when we experience the higher taste of Krishna consciousness, it is the end all be all. The taste is so sweet that all we hanker for is more taste. And that is the beauty that Krishna says. He says you trade your lesser activities for higher activities. But he's not requiring us to commit full. He says just try it. And why Krishna is so confident to give it? Because the characteristic of one who has found perfect consciousness is? What's the characteristic? How many material desires? We think, how is that possible? Well, if you had 20 $20 bills, and I changed your 100 for 20, is it impossible to get rid of all your $20 bills? It's very easy. Just keep trading. Keep trading. And keep trading. So by experiencing the happiness of Krishna consciousness, naturally, automatically, these lower tastes subside. I gave the example last week. I'll use it again. It's one of my favorite. If you've gone many, many weeks and months eating just boiled sabji and some rice. And then one day somebody brings a stale 5-day-old chapati. And I said, if you drop it, it'll shatter. But still, just to have some taste, chapati tastes so nice. After eating 1 month straight, boiled sabji, nice. The chapati is the best. The next day you'll wait for that 5-day-old stale chapati. And you'll have so much desire for it. But then someone comes and offers you that hot, fresh, fluffy, cholesterol-free puri. Do you have any taste for that chapati anymore? It was so attractive to you moments ago, right? You had so much desire for it. It almost seemed impossible that you would want to let it go. We may feel, I can't let go of whatever it is. And we all have our weak spots, our attachments. You know, I'm addicted to politics news. I'm addicted to movies or cricket or alcohol, this, that. We all have them. And we think they're impossible. But when one experiences something higher, these lower tastes automatically go in. And so Krishna is saying in this verse, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing the higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Krishna could have arranged this spiritual process in a way that said, this taste will not come until you're fully qualified. Think, you go to study in the university. Your point of studying is to get a degree so that you'll get some income at the end. Right? So once you're fully qualified, then you start to get income. The fruit of that labor is very far away. But Krishna does not make us wait. He reciprocates, meaning he expresses his appreciation for our service by giving us this feeling of happiness. This is the taste we're talking about. Immediately, regardless of how unqualified we may be. The only qualification we need to practice spirituality is some desire. That is it. Nobody else gives us this formula. If I want to work in this company, they'll give it to me. I have desire. They'll let me? Oh. But Krishna says, with some desire, you can begin practicing devotional service. And even if you have so many other desires, don't worry. I, Krishna is saying, will help you trade in all of these lesser desires for these higher ones. It is an incredible formula. So it begins like this. We practice bhakti. I'll implore all of you, please chant the holy names of the Lord. And you'll say, why? And I'll say, please chant the holy names of the Lord. And you'll say, I'm so busy. I'll try. Maybe tomorrow. But just try it. 30 days. Money back guarantee. Because when we practice spiritual life, there is a tangible effect. I gave this test. You can scientifically prove it. If you want to scientifically prove it, you take out a piece of paper and you write down 5 things that you would like to improve about yourself, about your existence, about your life. Write down any 5 things you want. Close it, put it in an envelope, and today is October 4th, so give me 60 days. Write on it December 4th, 2018, and you seal it. And you can put it under your pillow or wherever you want. And you chant every day, and you come for Bhakti Viksha every week, and you hear and begin to practice devotional life. And then in 60 days, you open that envelope, and you decide Have I made progress on these things? And you will see for yourself how this higher taste is bringing profound improvements in your life. And the things that were plaguing our consciousness, wow, I am seemingly no longer affected. So the practice leads to a tangible result. And when we do, it makes us more attracted, because I got some enjoyment out of it. And when I have more attraction, what am I going to do? I'm going to practice more bhakti. And I'm going to get some more happiness, more attraction, and this cycle continues. And when will this cycle end? Never. It is a never-ending state of perfection in practicing. The taste of Krishna consciousness never gets stale. All of our material, your favorite movie, how does your taste for that movie change over time? As you watch it once, twice, thrice, 10 times, 100 times. You can't stand it. What was giving you so much happiness initially, now you can't even bear hearing about it. Even the name makes you nauseous. Your favorite food stuff, cookies, you eat 1, 2, enjoy. Eat 20, 30. No more. This is the nature of material activities. Whatever begins and gives you some happiness initially will always end in frustration. Even money, we think, is the end-all, be-all. But why are some of the wealthiest people in the world the most unhappy? And they'll say, the most common response of lottery winners, you know what that is? I wish it never happened. I wish it never happened. It's shocking. But spiritual life, the more we taste, each day is sweeter than the day before. And we wonder, when does it end? It never ends. It is an unlimited ocean of rasa, of taste. So, a different way to explain it. We start devotional life. We experience some more happiness. Naturally, our material desires begin to reduce. Remember, Krishna doesn't say you have to get rid of them all. He says, just start. I will help you reduce them. Don't worry. And as our material desires reduce, what desires are going to increase? As we empty some of those other desires out of the mind, we are naturally adding new spiritual desires into the mind. And so we'll do more devotional service. And as we do more devotional service, what happens? We lose more. Ultimately, all of them are flushed out. And before we'll know, I'll say, what happened to them? Impossible. But at this moment, it may feel impossible. No, I'll never lose that desire. But it will happen. It will happen. But the only means for it to happen is by adding something higher. And that is Krishna consciousness. By artificially giving up coffee. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But by adding Krishna consciousness, everything will work. The impossible becomes possible by the power of Krishna's love for all of us. So, as we've been saying for some time now, this controlling the senses, it is subtraction by addition. Just add a little bit of spirituality to your life, and you will see the profound effect. And based on that effect, you'll add more, and add more, and add more, until you are sthita prajna, fully fixed in divine consciousness. Senses perfectly used, like the tortoise knows when to use them and when not to. Unmoved. If it's raining or sun out, no problem. I have my Krishna. If the stock market is up or down, no problem. if my neighbors like me or not. So this is the higher taste, the ultimate bargain that Krishna gives us. Just start. And he is saying, I will bring you to path of perfection. So don't try to artificially get rid of all of material desires. Just like that diet. It won't last. It won't. Okay. Any questions, comments, discussion? Any experiences in this higher taste that you can share? That's even best.
Just a few months ago during Janmashtami, one of the brothers told me to chant 4 rounds and offer water, and then read some, a little bit of Bhagavad Gita. So I did the chanting and offering of water. I didn't read, but I was doing that for some time. And during Janmashtami, I was in Milwaukee. It was raining heavily, and during that, it was I think right before Janmashtami. It was raining really heavily, and I remembered I didn't offer any water today. So I took a glass of water, went to my car, chanted, and about 2 rounds in, the rain subsided and the sun came out.
It's very tangible.
Yeah, that was my experience.
Any other comments, questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I remember you were mentioning about if you want to pour things you want to improve upon yourself, then write about it, and after 2 months can open it. So is that applicable to the ones who have not started chanting, or for the ones who've been chanting but there's so many things, improve upon that. So can we take the same step and probably have a yardstick of 2-3 months and then see if we have, so will there be a change?
Yeah. Don't worry, your time is not past. We can also do it. The ultimate yardstick measurement we want to do, I'll make a comment, a statement that is going to feel a little harsh. But just take this statement and file it away, and we'll keep coming back to it over the coming months. But it's a statement Krishna makes, which makes it absolutely true. But just like when mother says, eat your dal, it's good for you, child thinks, no, it can't be, it's horrible. I don't know. Krishna says that all of our material desires ultimately end in misery. All of them. Not most of them. He says all of them. Now that's, again, hard to digest at first. But it's a fact. So how we measure our progress in spiritual life is sometimes hard to gauge. What is the, when we're driving the car, I can measure my speed, I can measure my miles. I have an odometer, something to tell me. So what is that in my spiritual life? Is it how straight my tilak is? Is that telling me what I'm... The measurement is really simple. Today, do I have fewer material desires than I did 6 months ago? That's it. If you do, you know you're making progress in spiritual life. And you can't measure it, in 2 short increments. Okay, do I have less than yesterday? No, that's not practical. But over some 6 months, 3 months, some reasonable amount of time, we can do some assessment.
We have to work on it.
You have to work on it. You work on it by chanting. You work on it by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. You work on it by the practice of devotional service. You can work on it by praying to Krishna. Krishna, you say the material desires end in misery. This person is saying material desires end in misery, but I don't believe it. Help me believe it. Krishna will help you believe it. So you can pray to Krishna for help in these ways. Because these things are what are going to give us the ultimate perfection of life. Praying to Krishna for a few extra zeros in our bank account, what's that really going to get us? Not much. But praying to Krishna, help me experience the taste of bhakti. Now that can get us something extraordinary. So, we be conscious of our allurements, of our things that bind us, if you will. We should be conscious of them. But use the power of Krishna's mercy to overcome them, not our own ability. We're very limited. But Krishna is unlimited, and His love is unlimited. So use His strength. When child is walking down a dangerous alley, and he's holding the hand of father, he has no fear. Because whatever danger may come, he's not thinking, oh, I'll fend them off. He's like, nobody can touch my father. For Krishna is aham bija prataha pita. He says, I am the seed-giving father. He is our ultimate father. If we hold Krishna's hand in our path of spiritual life, what can't we accomplish? Everything can be accomplished. Nothing is impossible. That is why the impossible becomes possible. So just, it is good to reflect, to think about, to do some introspection. It's good to be thoughtful about our current situation. But we have to know the proper way to practice. And that's what Krishna is telling us. He's saying, add the higher taste. And he's going to be more direct in the coming verses about what to do. You have a question?
As a neophyte devotee, Prabhu, all our senses are imperfect. So when we are trying to nourish the soul, then we know that it is imperfect. But fundamentally, we need to have some faith, right? To believe that whatever bona fide religion or bona fide spiritual master is saying, to chant and do the things. So what it drives the imperfect senses is the faith, fundamentally the faith. Is it right, Prabhu?
Well, faith is the first step in our spiritual practice. So there are 9 steps from beginning to Krishna prema. Shraddha, then sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, nishta. I'm drawing a blank on the fourth one. Anartha nivritti, and then nishta, ruchi, ashakti, and then bhava prema. So there's like these stages. But it starts with some faith. But faith is not blind. And faith is not like a light switch. I either have it or I don't. There are degrees of faith. And our faith builds as we practice. The more we practice, the more our faith develops. So yes, our senses are imperfect and unable to perceive everything properly, which is why we cannot use our own ideas, our own mental analysis to come up with any conclusions. That's what Arjuna did. He said, I can't solve this on my own. But Krishna, you have absolute knowledge, you tell me. But it takes faith to follow Krishna's instructions. Right? It takes some faith. Who are you, Krishna? What is your situation? How do you know? Maybe we have those questions. So he's going to answer those also here. He's going to say, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. He says, I'm the source of everything. He's going to tell us, Bhoktara vyatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. I am the beneficiary of all yajnas. And surdam sarva bhutanam, I am your ever well-wisher. He's going to give all that analysis. But all of it still takes some faith. And faith is built on practice. So when I practice devotional service, I experience some tangible result. What does that do to my faith? It increases it. When I have more faith, what do? Practice more. When I practice more, what happens? I give the example all the time of the child at the edge of a pool. The child at the edge of a pool, the first time approaching the pool, has no faith it can swim. But after jumping in, holding on to the edge, letting go, holding on, and then slowly the faith builds. The next time they come to the pool, they may not jump in, but still more faith. Third time, fourth, 100th time, they just have faith. That faith didn't happen overnight. It took practice. So our faith in Krishna consciousness builds by experience, by practice. But it takes some work. See, the problem with us is that everything we've achieved in our material life took effort. Anybody got a degree overnight? Anybody got a job overnight? Anybody got a bank account overnight? Meaning a bank account with something in it? No, it took effort, time. But I put my hand in the bead bag chair. Oh, this is not working. I have so many material desires. I'm miserable still. We want it instant. And so it takes some sincere practice. That practice is fueled by some faith. So, yes, our senses are imperfect, but the practice of bhakti can make our imperfect senses perfect. This is the process of purifying our senses. Sarvopadi vinirmaktam nirmalam rishikesha rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchyate. This is in the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Goswami explaining that by performing devotional service, our senses become purified. The sense of the hog is very impure. It is attracted to garbage and stool. But the senses of a human, I'm sorry to speak so directly, but to illustrate the point, are more purified. It is not attracted to such filth, it has such so-called better. But the senses of Krishna's devotee are the ultimate. They are fully purified. So the practice of devotional life purifies the senses. So those imperfect senses have the ability to also perceive Krishna. Because many will say, well, how can I perceive Krishna with my imperfect senses? It's okay? Any other question? Any other comments or questions?
So Prabhu, like, if you see in India, at least most of them, if you speak to, they say that, yeah, they are doing devotional service. So how different is that with Krishna consciousness? Like,
Well, if you go to the office, your office, and you say, I'm doing work, who defines if you're doing work or not? You or your boss? Huh?
boss.
Not you? Your boss. If playing on video games, and then we're doing video games, say, boss, I'm doing work. He says, you're not doing work. So, Krishna defines bhakti. We don't define bhakti. I can't say I'm doing devotional service on my own definition. Just like your boss defines what is work, not you. Krishna is the ultimate boss. So he defines work. He defines bhakti. So bhakti is not what I think, what you think. What you think and what I think is irrelevant. What matters is what Krishna thinks. Not thinks, says. He never uses the word I think. We use I think because we don't know. I think the planet is this old. I think the sun is like this. We don't know. But Krishna knows. Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto majidi mam namasturu. He says, you do these four things. You think of me. You become my devotee. You offer your homages to me. You offer obeisances to me. And he says, what do my devotees do? Satatam kirtayanto mam. They are always chanting my glories. That's what a Mahatma does. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami gives 64 practices of bhakti. Exactly what they are. Advaita sadhana bhakti specifically. So when someone says, I'm doing devotional service, I mean, that's their right to say, but are they or not is based on what's in from Shastra. So, Krishna is giving the process of devotional service is prescribed. And the most potent means of devotional service. What is the most potent, powerful practice of bhakti in this age? Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo, Nashteva, Nashteva, Gatirnyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Nashta Eva, Nashta Eva, Nashta Eva. For deliverance then, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names, chanting of the holy names. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam. There's no other way. That is the most potent means of bhakti. Some will say, yeah, you are chanting, but I'm doing this. Okay. So which is more effective? We might want to know, right? Is it all the same? Is one more or less than the other? Some will say, I worship God how I think. It's all individual. It's personal. No, Krishna defines it. Our hearts are so contaminated if we leave it to our own volition. So many things are going on. So, bhakti is, remember, bhakti is devotion to Krishna. Krishna created the whole yoga ladder system from karma yoga, jnana yoga, aṣṭāṅga-yoga, buddhi yoga, bhakti yoga. He is the author of the yoga system. And he says, yoginām api sarvesham madhyate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate namam. This is the highest of yogi. So we have to go to Krishna's definition, not ours. Okay? It's a very important question. Because we want to be able to independently define it ourselves. It doesn't work that way. Nor does anything else. You don't define your work in the office, your boss does. It's okay? Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
During wedding or marriage, so each individual has their own desire when they select their life partner. So does it same like material desire, or material desire means only the desire towards gold, money, or?
No, that's, yeah, our relationships on the platform of body are also part of our material desires. Anything not connected to my soul is a material desire. Right? So this body is made up of matter. Earth, air, fire, water. Right? I take a multivitamin. What is the multivitamin? It's all kinds of minerals, right? That's because my body is matter. So anything related to that. So my relationship with, my spouse, that is a material relationship. We try to, sorry to speak so directly, but we put so many fancy, things around trying to make it this spiritual thing, but it's not. But husband-wife, wife-husband relationship in spiritual life is extraordinarily important. The grihastha ashram is one in which we see that when husband and wife, wife and husband, and children, and mother and father, all family, up, down, and across, when they all work together in the service of Krishna, those relationships become so much deeper and more profound than whatever material attachments we can have. So, our relationship with our, just our family, is that we are both children of Krishna. We are bound by a deeper sense of unity through our material relationships, which are not unimportant. Don't get me wrong. They're important. But they're important in the context of my relationship with Krishna. So we work in our family environment on how we together can work to serve Krishna. And if we want to remove Kurukshetra from our home life, the only means, I'll give this, husband comes home, wife comes home, child comes home after a long day. And all think, I am the center. And that happens. But when everyone comes home and realizes Krishna is the center, then things become very harmonious and very sweet. So, the relationships we have like that, they are material, but they can be used in spirit. Just like our body is material, right? It is matter. But our body is extraordinarily important in rendering service. How we can render service without our body? It's a vehicle to please Krishna. So I use my body, I care for my body as a vehicle to serve Krishna. Similarly, my family life is matter, but it's also very, very important. And so I'm working with my family together to please Krishna. What I can do on my own is limited, but what I can do with my family is more. Right? And those relationships become much more deeper and stronger when we bring the Lord into the center and we remove ourselves. It's okay?
Why chanting is more important in our life? Like someday says we believe in God, but we don't do worship. So like we believe in God. So why chanting is more important?
So why chanting is more important? That's a very, very nice question, because so believing is one thing, but ultimately action is what defines belief. So I can believe that the gym is a good place to go to maintain a healthy body. I can believe it. But if I don't go into the gym and work, it won't, right? So I can believe so many things. And that's called jnana. I can have knowledge. Krishna, you are God. But jnana must be turned into vigyāna, which means realized knowledge. Realized knowledge means the knowledge is changing my behavior. Right? So, doctor says, my dear sir, you have diabetes. You must abstain from sugars. I have knowledge, jnana. But that jnana is not vigyāna until I stop eating sweets. If I keep eating sweets, I have the knowledge, but I'm eating sweets. Then do I really have the knowledge? No. It must come to a changed activity. Then it's vigyāna. So just believing in God is the first step. It's a good step. But that must lead to action. So what is the activities? Well, the activities are plentiful. We'll honor prasadam here shortly, I promise. That is devotional service. We just read Bhagavad Gita. That is devotional service. Did some kirtan earlier. Service. Going to the temple. Service. But Krishna says that the chanting in each yuga, there is a specific process of bhakti that is most potent. In Satyuga, that process was meditation. But there our minds and bodies were such a way that one could meditate for thousands of years uninterrupted. If we try to sit and meditate for 5 minutes, it won't work. In Treta Yuga, the process of perfection was yajna, very elaborate fire sacrifice. Very, very elaborate. Huge sacrificial arenas would be built. Ghee and this would cost millions of dollars for us in today. We don't even have priests who can chant the mantras anymore. In Dwapar Yuga, the process is elaborate deity worship, the archa vigraha. They're not offered just some plastic jewels, diamonds and rubies and gold, very elaborate. That is the means of spiritual worship. And in Kali Yuga, the means is chanting. So it is the empowered process by Krishna in this age to have the most effect. Everything we do, we want the highest return on lowest investment. Right? We want the instant idli, instant dokla, instant everything we want. Open the box, pour, it should come out. That's what we want. So what is the instant bhakti? Chanting. That, because Krishna himself explains in the Kali Shantana Upanishad, it is a conversation between Brahma and Narada Muni. And they're lamenting that in this age of Kali, how anyone will practice bhakti. Things are so degraded. And we see it all around us. The consciousness is so backwards. How anyone will find spirit. And it says, don't worry. Krishna is sending forth a very simple process. Simple, but highly effective. More effective than actually any other process. That is Krishna's greatest bargain. That simple process, big result. And that is the process of chanting. So, not only chanting, but chanting this specific Mahamantra. It comes from this Upanishad. It is not just, okay, you chant this mantra, I chant that. Yeah, any mantra is good, but what is the best? The ultimate. We also want to know. So, and again, it is not a matter of my opinion, your opinion, someone else's opinion. Ultimately, the only opinion that matters is Krishna's, because he has absolute knowledge and absolute love. And he gives very specifically what to do. And that is the beauty of Shastra. When someone says this or that, we can go to Shastra. And that's why chanting is so specifically important in our process. Yeah, please.
Actually, nowadays we get angry so easily if something is not according to us.
Yeah.
So, for that peace and just control our anger, what we should do.
Yeah.
And nowadays we are short-tempered. So, just to control that, what we should do.
Yeah, how to control anger.
Just give 60 days and we'll
Actually, you'll find that is one of the most profound effects of spiritual life. I've had so many people come to me and some even more sad situations of expressions of anger specifically, and how their whole life is turned around in this single quality of anger out of the practice of bhakti. And the reason is, Krishna is going to explain that anger is born out of lust. Lust is born out of our attachments from the sense objects. So, when we have intense material desires, that's called lust. And we're talking intense desires. You know, like, I really have to have that. And what happens is, when those desires are not fulfilled, we become frustrated. And frustration leads to anger. Right? And so, and we know, when we're angry, nothing good happens. No good decisions are made, nothing good is said, and nothing good is done when we're angry. So we know that, by experience, unfortunately. So how to control the anger? We must look to the root source of it is our material sense enjoyment. And that only way to break that tie is by our spiritual life. So as we practice spiritual life, you'll naturally you'll find all of our anger subduing. Because our anger is on the platform of the body, material. There is a spiritual anger, but it's in a different realm. So we'll set that aside for now. But anger is on the material platform. So, You just practice spiritual life. You honor Krishna Prasada. And you'll see that this, and you come for a few weeks, we'll be discussing anger coming up, which is the beauty of all our questions. I always say they're coming up. I mean, literally every question Krishna answers. Because these are all very logical questions. So it will happen as we let go of all of our material hankerings. You'll find a very calming of the mind, an ability to see things more clearly, with a clear head, understanding, okay, this person just slapped me. I'm angry, but it was due to their return. I'm speaking in action. Our ability to understand what is going on around us becomes so much. Right now, we don't know, so we just react. So just practice a little bit and you'll see.
I'm seeing just little bit changes.
And it will accelerate. It will get more and more profound as you progress in the devotion. It's very tangible. Those are anger and greed are two of the ones that are very tangibly seen by all of us. We can experience it, so it will happen. And ultimately, I'll tell you, our anger comes from wanting to control things that we can't control. And when we realize that Krishna is in control, He is the Ishvara Parama, Krishna, and we have faith in Krishna's protection, automatically our anger is gone. I wanted this to happen, it didn't happen. But Krishna loves me. Okay, it'll be okay. When we start to have those conversations in our mind before we react, and at the risk of getting into relationship counseling, if my wife were here, she would say, what are you doing? But, between spouses, if you start to get agitated, just sit, chant one round, staring at each other and chant. And then if you want to fight, then fight. You'll see, almost miraculously, you'll start laughing at each other. And what you were angry about, you'll just, what happened? And like that, you can do with your friends, children, whatever. But we said, Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalatya Chakshuro Miltam Mire Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaste. Krishna and Srila Prabhupada are opening our eyes to see things as they are. It's just a torch of knowledge. This knowledge is like light, like a torch. When this room is dark, I don't know what's in it. I'm fearful. I'm scared. I don't know which way to go because I can't see. But as soon as someone flips on the lights, I can see everything as it is. I can very nicely navigate. This world right now to us is dark because we don't have knowledge. And so it leads to these things of anger and fear and frustrations. But with the torch of knowledge, oh, okay, I can see. And our ability, it doesn't make it go away, but it won't trouble us to the degree it troubles us today. Trust me, you become a devotee, your child will still talk back to you. It's going to happen, okay? You become a devotee, it's going to rain on you. You're going to have problems. You're going to get sick. But our ability to handle that and not let our consciousness become affected by it is what spiritual life is about. So, it's okay?
Yes.
Any more questions?
To add to this, usually I used to scold my son, shout at my son in the morning time,
Get ready,
getting ready, he'll be lazy sitting, getting up at 8 o'clock, 8:30 the bus will come. Then beginning my husband used to say, no, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Then okay, yeah, see, Rashmi, you're going to Bhakti Viṣayā, you're chanting, no, you should not shout. Yeah, then I'll tell to my son slowly. See, Mama has also got up from sleep, even I have some work, you also do your work. Like that, I just tell like that.
Yeah. It happens. Thank you. You have a comment?
4 yugas that you talked about, right?
Yeah.
they are universal or it depends on world? So every world, there are various worlds as you said, right? Every world is going through different phases of yogas, simultaneously, or they are universal and all the world are going by one yoga or the other.
So the time works, Krishna will explain later in the Bhagavad Gita, that they go from yuga to yuga to yuga. So the sequence is fixed and the duration is fixed. So Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. Dwapara Yuga is 864,000 years, and like that is fixed. And they continue in a cycle. So after Dwapara Yuga, then Satyuga will come, and it goes like that in a circle. Then each universe is on a specific time cycle. And that time cycle is also defined. Lord Brahma is the empowered creator of the universe, and he lives 100 years. And one day, one 12-hour portion of his day, is 994 of those yuga cycles. So one yuga cycle, Satyuga, Tretyuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, times 994, that's 12 hours of Brahma. Another 12 hours is 24 hours. That's roughly 8.6 billion years. That goes on one day, that's one day, 8.6 billion, times 365, times 100. So that's the duration. So each universe is at a different age of Brahma. That is measuring the duration of the universe. So our Brahma is just past 50 years old. We are in the middle of the day. We are in the 7th Manu, Vaivasvata Manu. And we are on the 28th Yuga cycle of this specific Manu. So I'm giving the detail just to explain. It's very explicitly given. But now another universe may be on a completely different, they may be
a different yuga also.
Different yuga, different age.
Kali Yuga is here, there might be Satyuga or Treta Yuga somewhere in the other world.
And, in the day of Brahma, there are 994 Kali Yugas. So where in the day they are, where in the year they are, all that is different.
But bro, is that also, so in our material universe, for our Lord Brahma, it's Kali Yuga everywhere? In all the 14 planets?
Yeah. That's universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, what?
Within this universe, it's Kali Yuga everywhere.
Okay.
So all the worlds are in.
Yeah, all the planetary systems. Remember, the universe is like a ball. Within that ball, there are 14 planetary
Worlds
systems.
and universe are I'm looking at universes encompassing umbrella wherein all the worlds are there. Is that right?
Yeah, you can say that. We call it planetary systems just to get the terminology. So within that, there are many planets. Earth is one planet.
Whichever the world is, where there are living entities, different parts, are all in the Kali Yuga?
Yes, all in
at one time simultaneously. Everybody is in Kali Yuga.
Yeah, everyone within one whole universe is in this same cycle.
Now Kali Yuga is here, then everywhere is Kali Yuga. So everywhere there is this, irrespective of not only this planetary system, but
upper, lower, yes.
Wherever they are.
Yes. Yeah. I got it. Sorry, I misheard your question.
Yeah.
The neighboring universe will be at a different one, but yes, within this, all the planetary systems, all the different planets.
Also, neighboring universe will be on a different. Yeah.
And there are billions and trillions of universes.
How many years makes a yuga?
So Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. We have elapsed just over 5,000. So when Krishna Lila completes, that is the end of Dwapara Yuga, and then Kali Yuga begins. So there are about 427,000 years left in this yuga.
So this is the start.
This is the start. Yes, that is a very appropriate reaction, which is, oh my God. It is very true. If we analyze what life was like just 100 years ago, if we get to speak to our grandparents or maybe great-grandparents, and we talk about things, the things that exist today never existed back then. How much some of the heinous crimes, the addictions, the level of interactions between people, the lack of respect, all those relationships, the quality of our foods. So in Srimad Bhagavatam and in our Vedas, it explains what will happen as Kali Yuga progresses. Now I'm going to really that the lifespan will shrink. By the end of Kali Yuga, the lifespan will be about less than 20 years. And the height of people will be less than 2 feet. So we'll get, because the foodstuffs are becoming so poor, there's no nutrition. And the rest of it is not so pleasant to speak about. It's very, very ugly. And we can see glimpses of it. So best we have somehow come in touch with this knowledge. We don't know when we may come back in touch with this knowledge again. We think, I have tomorrow. I'll chant tomorrow. But when will tomorrow come? And where we will be tomorrow, we don't know. So shall we chant?